Hey guys, Jacob here. Just thought I'd do a video detailing my thought process on how I came up with the Oceanic ranks. I know there have been a few questions from some Kiwis, and I have tried to consult as many of the Kiwis I can that have been in the sport for a long time or kind of know a particular weight class well. Because I know the Australian scene pretty well, having developed the Australian ranking system, or at least one version of it. And I've been in the Australian scene for coming up 4 years now, so I know all the athletes, I know roughly where their levels are, and I have at least some experience with the Kiwis. So my background, I'm actually a Kiwi myself. I grew up in Nelson. I moved over to Australia when I was about 24 to do my degree, my postgraduate degree over here. So I started arm wrestling about a year after I got here. So I arrived here 2019. I started arm wrestling at the end of October 2020. So I've been in the sport nearly 4 years. But I didn't get to experience New Zealand arm wrestling before I came over. So I'm relying a lot on the two international joinings where Kiwis have come over here. So one of them was Over the Top. Admittedly, that's 2 years ago, so that's pretty old data. But the more recent one, the more relevant one is East vs West qualifiers, which was only maybe 2-3 months ago now. So that's kind of the most relevant one I had to look at. But to supplement that, because the New Zealand official ranks apparently are pretty old and out of date, missing a lot of data. So I've mostly gone through, talked to a bunch of people who are at various levels within New Zealand arm wrestling, gotten their feedback. I talked to probably at least four guys, as well as some of the big names in Australian arm wrestling that have been around a long time, because they've hopefully got some experience with the Kiwis as well. So hopefully, being a Kiwi who has now moved to Australia and is familiar with a lot of the Australian guys, hopefully I can do a fairly decent, unbiased job, because I definitely don't want anyone to feel like they've been hard done by. That said, because this is all very opinion-based, not a lot of results, it's not going to be completely accurate. I completely, accept that. But if you do feel like you can beat someone, the easiest way is just to compete within your country and beat someone who's in front of you within your country. Or if you're really motivated, come international. If you're in Australia and you want to beat one of the Kiwis in front of you, go to New Zealand and beat them. Or if you're a Kiwi and you think you could beat one of the guys from Australia who's in front of you, come and beat them. But yeah, definitely the easiest way for you to gain ranks is to beat someone within your own country, because then you don't have to travel as much. It's a bit cheaper. So yes, so obviously to start with, we're going to start from the Australian Open ranks. So there are some pitfalls with this already, because I feel like the left hands are not as... Hi, Cora. You want to say hi to the camera? There we go. So yeah, the left hand ranks open weight, I feel aren't the most accurate, because we'll get to that. But guys like Bowen Contado and Grant Tolentino are some guys that I think should be quite a bit higher. But the most recent results rule, it's something that promotes being active, because if you sit inactive for too long, the guys above you keep being active and start losing, then you eventually will fall down out of the ranks. So we have to use this as the starting point. And yeah, if you think you can beat someone in front of you, just go out and do it, and just send me the video and I will immediately update the ranks and you will have your rightful place. So yeah, I've pulled a couple of the guys from New Zealand, so like Jack Lawrence, Johnny Daly, William Wu from Dunedin, unless he's moved somewhere else now, I'm not sure. But I really don't have a lot of experience with most of the guys. I've also pulled like a couple of guys from Wellington, but yeah, I started arm wrestling when I came to Australia, so I've only, in passing pulled some Kiwi guys. So obviously the basis for the Australia side of the ranks is going to be the Australian open ranks, right? Now there are some issues with this. Like, I know for a fact, well, I can't say for a fact, but I have good reason to believe the left-hand open ranks are pretty inaccurate. Names like Bowen Cantado and potentially Grant Tolentino should be higher. I think Bowen realistically probably slots in just below Brett, recently losing to Brett. I don't see anyone else in the left-hand opens that could seriously challenge his left arm. But, I mean, it would be a little unfair to just start chopping and changing all this. So this is our starting point. And so now we basically have to decide where are we going to slot in the Kiwis. So I'm going to do like a different color here. So Mate Warangi is pretty easy because he recently was in the AWC. Okay, so Mate lost to Brett and he lost to Rika. So that's clearly, he will go in there. And these will be the Oceanic. Okay, Mate number 4. Now, it's really hard to kind of go off. So if we go over to the New Zealand right-hand ranks, all this data is super old. So we can't really reliably look at this. But I do believe Charles is a pretty clear number 2 on the right arm. So now we have to decide, okay, where does Charles fit into these top 10? So Charles has recent data at East West West. So he recently beat Adam Laura on both arms. And one of his 2 arms were closer than the other. I forget exactly which one at this point. Maybe I can put a video up showing which arm was the close one, because I did get that videoed. But if we go back a little bit older, so we go back to over the top, we look out in our open weights, and then we click on, where is he? Where is he? Charles. So Charles. Oh. Is it? Oh, sorry, that's 2024. 2022, right. Over the top, Charles beat Jordan Davis. He lost to Brett Coots. So therefore, he has to go somewhere in there. Also to note is he lost to Lachlan Carpenter and Marcus Atirai. Now this is back when Lachlan was about 1 year in. I know that because Lachlan started at the exact same time I did, and Lachlan at this point was just over a year, maybe like a year and 3 months, something like that, or maybe a year and a half, somewhere around that year and a half kind of range in the sport. And Charles also lost to Larry. So having beaten Jordan and knowing that he's relatively close with Adam, which one was that? That was, yeah, no, I remember now. I remember the video. So he was close with Adam on right. So he's close with Adam on right. He beat Jordan Davis at over the top. So I think it's pretty fair to put Charles here. Okay, so then that will push, that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That pushes Christian and Adam out of the top 10 in Oceania. On left, as I was saying, it's anyone can have a guess it's really hard. Given that Mate is undefeated in New Zealand, I decided to put him third under Brett, because I know Brett's left is absolutely ridiculous, and I've actually heard he was pinning in the afterpool Lachlan Adair after the recent tournament, the AWE tournament. So Brett likely would beat Mate on left, and out of respect, I'm going to put Mate above everyone else, even though his left is relatively untested in Australia. After that, it becomes very tricky. So I and people I've consulted from New Zealand really have no idea, in my opinion. So some people are saying, well, I know where Daniel P is at. I know where Jacob Tuxworth is at. And I'm pointing out, well, Jacob Tuxworth is a very different animal these days compared to when he was at Over the Top. Jacob has been to like every comp. He's the most active arm wrestler in Australia. He beat recently Jack Burmester. Now Jack is very interesting because if we go back to our Over the Top, Jack Burmester on left, decimated 2022 Over the Top. He beat names like Fatali, Lachlan Carpenter when Lachlan was 1 year in, Andy Boskovsky he beat, Charles Puri he beat. He only lost to Mario Tambakis. So Jack was at an extremely high level, but apparently more recently he got busy, he got married, and he hasn't been training as much anymore. So perhaps he has dropped a bit, and that's the issue with ranks. If you're not actively competing all the time, things can kind of get a bit out of date, particularly when you're high up in the ranks. It makes it quite difficult because those top ranks are protected just from not being active. So what makes it hard is Charles lost to Jack, right? So that's why I'd put him down here. Okay, so I put Charles above. I put Charles above Jack. Okay, so Charles. So Charles above Jack. But in my mind, I know what level Charles is at. I think Charles likely beats Jacob. He might beat Ratmere. I'm not sure about Daniel P. Daniel P is very high level. He nearly beat Matt Bacon. So I was thinking, in this kind of ballpark. So I kind of put him in the middle here. Then I learned that he's recently lost to this guy called Ian. So Ian goes there. And then there's a couple guys who should go above both of those. So that is Charles and John. John and Corey. Where John and Corey actually fit in, really hard to say. I think we could potentially put them maybe a little bit higher if Ian is close. The thing is, all these guys are close with Charles, apparently. Apparently Charles could be number 2 in New Zealand after Mate. So it's like, this becomes very difficult. Like, so do I put all these guys together, which is what I originally did, which is down here? Could I slot John and Corey up a little bit higher? Like, maybe they beat Ratmere. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it, by the way. I've never met this guy, but hopefully I'm not butchering his name. So it becomes really hard. So, given that apparently these guys potentially maybe a little bit higher, maybe we'll slot them in under Daniel Pervin, or maybe I think they likely beat Ratmere, for sure. I think that's highly likely. And then this gives them the chance, like Ian and Charles, if they beat John and Corey, they can then jump up to there. Daniel. Did they beat Daniel? Daniel looked in good form. It's really hard to say. It's literally a guess. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that's our 10. You know what? I think Corey probably. I think he does beat Daniel. That's from someone from New Zealand. Because he knows of Daniel. But then again, it's really hard because like Ian and Charles apparently are really close. Like all these guys in New Zealand are really close, so it's really hard to say. But at least that gives people the opportunity to prove it. So if you go and beat one of these guys, you'll jump up into that rank, like whatever. Don't complain. This is not supposed to. It's supposed to be as accurate a starting point as possible. But it's not going to be 100% accurate. And don't complain, just go out and beat the dude and get your rank. And like I'm saying, I think that's pretty generous because I think realistically Bowen probably slots in under Brett. And maybe even Grant Tolentino. He is ridiculous. I think Grant likely would fit into this top 10 somewhere as well. All right. So now we go to the under 100. So looking at this list, I was like, okay, who is under 100? John used to be. Apparently he's not anymore. He's more like 120. There's Corey. Corey is under 100. Okay, so Corey, if he beats Ratmere, means he goes here. And I know this is kind of a little bit out of order. It's because... weird order because we've got Bowen up here, we've got Torben up here, but they're not in the open ranks just because they got super high in the under 100s, but then they haven't been competing open weight so much. So I think that's pretty fair. So Corey, that means he's 7, and then Sam, who's an under 80 kilo guy, doesn't really have business going in the under 100s anyway. As long as the under 100s are a sufficiently high level, an under 80 kilo guy should be in them. So now over to the right arm. So we don't have to worry about Charles. He's thoroughly heavyweight. So Corey beat Ehrman at over the top, and he lost, and that was 2 years ago. He lost to Alex at the recent East vs West. So that's very much where Corey would go. Now, if we go over to the, let's go to the left-hand ranks. So this is the. Let's go to the New Zealand left-hand ranks. Anyone else under 100 we have to think about. So Max McDonald. All right, so I just looked up and asked some people. Let's get up the left ranks. Right, so Max and Liam. So I actually already know a little bit about Liam. I've seen him pull. He's not in Wellington, but he's in the Wellington kind of region. He's a bit outside. I forget exactly where he lives. He looks very technical. I've been very impressed with what I've seen from Liam. Max is currently ranked in front of him, so I will give Max the benefit of the doubt on left arm. As to where Max fits into the Oceanic, Jacob recently has made top 10 in Australia on the left arm by beating Jack Burmester. That is super fucking impressive. So I have to give Jacob the benefit of the doubt there. Ehrman is also super strong. Ehrman potentially is currently underrated. But in fairness, I'm going to put Max here. He is currently the number 1 ranked under 100 kilo guy in New Zealand. So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt over Ehrman. And yeah, Liam could be close with Max, so yeah, he could be anywhere in there. So yeah, that's where we're at. Actually, on the right arm, if we're going under hundreds, Max, Liam, yeah, Liam's down quite a bit. Apparently, Liam potentially might beat Max on right, but again, this is all speculation. We don't know for sure. But yeah, so Finn and Anton definitely should be there. Wurimu Power, I think he did come to the recent East West West. Let's see if we can find him. Right, so he got 5th in the under 95, so he's out of the discussion. So if we go back to the ranks, so right arm. So if we go over to right, under 100, right. So we've got this guy called Finn. Got Anton. So let's chuck them in somewhere. All right, so now a guy that I had missed off originally. I forgot about this guy called Finn. So complete guess. I've talked to some guys and they reckon it's probably close with Oz. So I'm going to put Finn in front just because Oz has been a bit inactive lately. I know he's not really training. He's still really high level. But given that Finn is a bit more active, I'm going to put him in front of Oz. And then we've got Anton. I've never pulled Anton. I've never met Anton. Apparently, probably would be close with Oz. Probably not quite would beat him. So I'm going to put him just under Oz. So now that's... Oops, why is this number 3? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. If we go back into our right hand ranks from New Zealand, we have to start wondering where guys like Ash Austin is. He is apparently very high level. He beats Jack. Jack apparently is like anyone under 100 kilos in Australia really don't touch him, apart from Ash. Ash is the one guy that can touch him under 100, and Jack was recently weighing 85. So I believe that would put Ash here. So there's our 10. So if we go to the under 90 kilos, really hard to say where Ash fits in. So, and apparently Ash is more than 90 kilos these days, and he might not go back to under 90, so this might be completely irrelevant. So I know, given that level, I think he beats Gary, for sure. Whether he beats Hamza, there's a potential. Whether he beats Pepe, that's going to be quite difficult, I feel. I know what level Pepe's at, particularly on the right arm, and at times he's flirted into the top 10 open weight in Australia. So I'll give Hamza it over Ash, but again, that's not definite, and Ash potentially weighs more than 90s anyway, so he might fall out soon from inactivity, but we'll see. So there are quite a few strong Kiwi guys in this, so I think it's very clear that this will be number 5. Let's not put numbers because I just have to change way too many things. Jack Lawrence definitely goes here. Jack had an absolute war with Gary, nearly beat Gary, and only lost due to fouls, and he was on the winning side of the table when he did an elbow bobble, and it wasn't necessarily a bobble, it was relatively large, but it was still brutal for him to lose on fouls when he was kind of on the A side looking like he was about to win. So Jack goes there. So Josh Barnett, there's so many Josh Barnett, Josh Burnett, Jamie Barrett, so many in New Zealand and Australia, it gets so confusing. Alright, so Josh Barnett, I believe it is, he loses to Sam. Sam's here. Oh, that means I screwed up the under 90s. Because where's Sam? But Sam's been inactive. What makes this really hard is I know how strong Fitzy is on right. Apparently Fitzy loses to all these guys. But Fitzy beat Josh Barker. Josh Barker beats Gary, even though Josh isn't in the ranks because he's currently serving his wider ban. But that means to me, Fitzy probably also beats Gary. But Jack stonewalls Fitzy. Apparently Josh Barnett also can beat Fitzy. So, yeah, it becomes really hard. I don't want to underscore like guys like Fitzy because I know how strong he is. So, in the end, I just decided to put Josh Burnett and then Fitzy here. Because I believe with Fitzy's style, he can beat Rhett. But the annoying thing is, like, Sam is now underranked. So, again, it's like, we just need more data. We need more data. Rhett's pretty active. He has been susceptible to pressers before. Fitzy is a presser. Yeah, it's tough. It's really tough to fit. This is all guess, and I hate starting ranks with guesses because I much prefer doing it from data. Because then, if people get annoyed at you, at least you can be like, well, here's this data point that I'm going off. But this literally is guesswork. So now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's 10 done. Sorry, I messed that up in the video. James well beats Fitzy, so James gets the final under 90 kilo spot. But Sam, I do believe you should be in here. Sam really should definitely be in front of Gary. He did lose to Hamza, I believe. Did he lose to Hamza? Yeah, I think he lost to Hamza at Queensland Champs or at Nationals. I can't remember. I think it was must have been at Queensland Champs. Lost to Hamza. So yeah, realistically, Sam Burnett should be somewhere between Gary and Hamza. Whether he goes in front of Ash, I don't know. But he's been inactive, so he's kind of fallen off as people above him have started losing. So that's why all these names are in front of him. That's why it pays to stay active, guys. Like if you don't compete for 2 years, you're gonna most likely fall off the ranks, unless you're starting from a really high spot where there's not many people in front of you that can lose. Yeah. So now we go to left. So Ash Austin. All right. So where does Ash go on left? Total guess. I'm going to put him under Ratmere. He is, if we look in the New Zealand ranks, Ash is number 1 as well. James Wells is number 2. Jack Lawrence number 3. I know where Jack's at. He was at East vs West. I have no experience with James, no experience with Ash. So I'm just going to slot Ash in there at a complete guess. Oh, that's rough though, because Robbie Capone is under him. I know how strong Robbie is on left. But let's I'm trying to be objective. This is the number 1 under 90 kilo person in all of New Zealand. So I don't want to underrate him too much. Maybe he can beat Ratmere. Maybe he can beat even Daniel. Like, I don't know. But out of respect for him being number 1 in New Zealand, I'm going to put him here in front of Robbie, who is a complete monster at the 80 kilo division. At one stage, or even still, I think within Australia, Robbie Capone could be top 10 within Australia. Maybe. Like, could he beat Jacob Tuxworth? I think he potentially could, and Jacob is currently ranked top 10 open weight. Yeah, so I think it's a lot of respect to Ash to put him in front of Robbie. Who else have we got? So James Wells. So again, James has a lot of time in the sport. I know he's a bit injured at the moment, but apparently he does pretty well. Sometimes he's gripped up with Daniel Pervin before. Sometimes you can throw it down with some of the very best names in New Zealand, so I'm going to put him here. Right, so now where are we at? So that's the 90s done. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Sorry, Leo and Gary. Leo might beat Sam. I think Leo beats the version of Sam that turned up to Nationals that I faced. Because I gripped up with Leo after East vs West, and I couldn't do a whole lot with him. I mean, admittedly, it wasn't a ready go. But, yeah, Leo's looking pretty crazy right now. But the question is he going to cut to under 80? that doesn't matter. This is the under 90 division anyway. So, all right, under 80. I'm quite familiar with all these guys. It's really hard because, again, like I said, I think given that Fitzy beat Josh, admittedly it was just after Josh had the elbow surgery, but he beat Josh. Josh smokes Gary. So all I can do is kind of look up at the 90s. Gary's all the way up here. Jacob S is in front of him. And then it goes Fitzy after that. So I have to put Fitzy. I have to put Fitzy there based on how he does with the Australian under 90 the Kiwi under 90 kilo guys. That means he has to go here until proven otherwise. Then he can jump up. Besides Thomas, there's this guy called Daniel Hahn is a massive name. So he had a really close match with Jamie Barrett. He's the only guy that took Jamie off of the A side in the East West qualifiers. And so I put him just under Jamie. I do think he's got a pretty good style to fight when Nick doesn't like it. So hence me putting it just above him. And then if we look back at the right-hand ranks, we can see Leon Joy. So he's number 2 under Fitzy, so I kind of want to include him in there as well. And so I put him in the number 10 spot, just behind Nick. Ian, you know, if I don't know if you're watching this, Leon, but if you reckon you can beat Daniel, I apologize. Obviously, is the weight class down, but I've just seen how strong he was against Jamie, and yeah, like please go beat Daniel. Yeah. As I said, this is all largely guesswork and feeling, and I hate doing ranks like that because it makes it very difficult to justify why you put someone somewhere, because you can't just look to a result and say this is the reason why this person's there. But we have to do that for these ranks because there's not enough data between Australia and New Zealand. On the left, so if we go into the left-hand ranks, under 80 kilos, Johnny Daly is the number 1. I gripped up with Johnny. I know where he's at. Nick was very close with me. SK is very strong. I think Otto has been inactive. So we're going to put Johnny down here. Again, this is one I'm fairly confident in because I've felt him. So for reference, this is where I'm sitting. I felt him. I think he beats Otto for sure. I think he might be relatively close with SK, but SK's probably the favourite in that on left. And so that rounds out our under 80-10, top 10. In the under 70, so Daniel, straight away up into the number 2 spot, because he was very close with Jamie. Besides that, apparently there's this guy called William Wu. So this is a guy, I believe this is the guy that founded the Otago University Armwrestling Club. I've gripped up with him 2 years ago. At that time, he beat my right. We had like a bit of an unofficial kind of friendly super match on the night that we hadn't planned, and he won that 3-1. Admittedly, that was when my right was at probably one of the worst points of its injured period. I was injured for about a period of like a whole year. But I got to feel him. I got to feel where his level was. At that time, he was under 65 kilos. I don't know if he still is. He was the strongest under 65 kilo puller that I'd felt at that time that I've ever felt. I felt one person who is stronger than that now, who is under 65 kilos. This guy called, what's his name? Edmund, I think it is. Edward. Yeah, Edward from Sydney. Started out at 63 kilos. Ridiculous top roll. Nearly beat Moses, who's another really strong guy. Yeah, absolutely crazy. I think his rise is like 30 kilos or something. His pronation's like 40 kilos while weighing like 65. It's absolutely insane. So anyway, William Wu. It's again, it's hard. Like, where do I put him? I think he beats Otto. Apparently, he's close with Daniel. That's the thing that throws me. So I've only felt him 2 years ago. I don't know where he is at the moment. Apparently, he's relatively close with Daniel. I think he beats Otto. The thing is, Nick and Adam, I think, would be a really big problem for him. I think that would be really big issues. Nick is underrated, I think. Adam, I think, is also underrated. Rogan's been a little bit inactive. He's still feeling very strong. But I think I'm going to put him just under Rogan. Just under Rogan. And then we've got this other guy called Lee Ruka. So again, I literally no idea. Apparently Lee is ranked in front of Daniel in New Zealand's official ranks. So based on that, he's got to be pretty good. So we'll put Lee. Yeah. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. On the left hand, I think I did do some edits to this. So I've had some intel recently. Apparently, Josh James, this guy here, went over to New Zealand, and he didn't pull Daniel, but apparently, what did he pull Daniel? I forget. Anyway, apparently Daniel probably beats him. Given that that's the only data I've got, I'm gonna go with that. Okay. And then we've got William Wu. Again, I pulled William 2 years ago, so I'm only going off of what he felt like back then. He's probably got stronger in that time, so yeah, it's really hard to say. Now we go to the women's. Ashley Huerta absolutely smashed Keziah, both arms. Now, the last time Keziah versed Vicky, I'm pretty sure that was when she was 16 years old, and she nearly beat Vicky at 16. Sorry, might be getting a little bit sick. Nearly beat Vicky when she was like 16. So, given that, I think Ashley has to go number 1 on both. This woman called Nagareta. So, Steph is an absolute beast. So Nagareta, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I've got no idea where she goes. I know Steph is a very high level in Australia. She's undefeated in the under 65. She does very well in the heavyweight. She's been beating Amira right up until very recently. So until proven otherwise, I think Stephanie wins that. So Nagareta goes there. And similar on left. Daria is a bit easier because she lost to Eve at East vs West qualifiers and she won, I believe, against Melanie. So that's pretty clear cut. Or it might have been like previously Yvonne. Wait, was it Yvonne that she beat? Yeah, it might have been that she beat Yvonne. Either Melanie or Yvonne that she beat, and she lost to Eve. So I'm going to put her just under Eve. And then if we go over to the left, again, she beat Yvonne, so she goes in front of Yvonne, and she potentially might beat Rebecca. Rebecca's been a bit inactive. Rebecca's quite technical. Again, it's a wash whether she goes there or there, like, unknown. On the right hand, Daria beat Brooke, lost to Chrissy, so that's very clear. So that's the women all done. So this is where we're kind of at. So again, I feel like, so yeah, I'm still playing around with these. Like, who knows? I feel like this might be pretty good because I know Matt Bacon's like 160 kilos, absolute weapon. He nearly did lose to Daniel Pervin in my eyes. Daniel nearly was able to take his hand. John and Corey apparently would beat Daniel. Apparently. And I don't know enough about it, so I'm just going to have to trust that. Ian and Charles. Charles apparently can be number 2 in New Zealand. So that makes it really hard. Potentially these two should be higher. All these 4 are super close. All of them. Based on that, I guess they have to go together on the ranks. This is kind of where we're at. I think that's accurate. I think before I had them all together, but I don't know. I think Matt Bacon should probably... He's just such a big human being. I think he should be in here. And that makes sense because there's, you know, Marte's gone undefeated, so there's a bit of a gap between him and John. So that's kind of where we're at. If you disagree with this list, that's completely fine. I completely accept the fact it's not accurate. But if you want your name to be in here, just go and beat one of these guys. If you're in New Zealand, go grab one of the Kiwis that you see on this list and have a super match, beat them. Send me the video and I will chuck your name in there, no worries at all. Similarly, in Australia, if you think you can beat one of these guys, just go beat one of the Aussies. They're easily accessible. Given that, you know, over time, the people that are more active are going to get more names in there. So if Australia is super, super active, it's going to push the Kiwis out. Similarly, if the Kiwis are super active, it's going to gradually push the Australians out. So there's going to be a bit of ebb and flow, which hopefully gets evened out at international events like East West West qualifiers, and hopefully some more that become a bit more regular. So that's it for today, guys. That gives a bit of insight into my thought process. I've talked to quite a few Kiwis, people in leadership, people who have been in the sport a long time, to get their opinions on roughly where they think they're at and where they think the rest of New Zealand is. So hopefully I haven't got it like super wrong. Probably doesn't help that I think the Australian ranks to start with aren't completely accurate, but I mean, you can only go off the most recent results. You have to reward activity, so most recent results go first, then number one. Yeah, so this is going to be the new update. Now that I initially missed out guys like Finn and Anton, I think now we are pretty accurate. So hopefully people are a bit happier with this. I know I definitely missed some people like Anton and Finn and Max, so I apologize about that. But yeah, happy rank hunting, guys.
If you like and sub, you'll put 2.5 kilos on your riser lift this week.